How's it going, everybody? Okay, I figured I'd put a video together that shows how to get to some of the more well-known caves that are located in the Wichita Mountains. I've got maps, I've got coordinates. The only thing I ask is that you please tread carefully. So some of these are in the wildlife refuge, so please stick to established trails, game trails already. Try not to, forge out new paths. You can get to all of these on established trails and game trails that are out there already. So we call most of them caves. There's very few actual natural caves out there. Most of them are mines from Spanish exploration, Mexican exploration, of course the gold rush in the 1800s. Most of these are mines that they used to try to find silver and gold and other things. A lot of the mine shafts were actually filled in, but there's still quite a few of them that are exposed. So as you're hiking around out there, you'll see quite a few of them that actually go in the ground. And then every once in a while, you'll have some, that are more horizontal. And those are the ones that we're focusing on here. Now, a lot of the mines that have not been covered up, that just go straight into the ground, they, fill with water. So you need to be very careful, because if you fall in one of those, you're going to have a tough time getting out. Okay, so the first set that we're going to focus on are actually in Quartz Mountains, which are still part of the Wichita Mountains. Not a whole lot over there. Now, let me just get this out there right now. Across the Wichita Mountains as a whole, known to be, thought to be the oldest mountain range in the world, or at least one of them, there's thousands upon thousands of little rock rooms and things that resemble caves. So I'm just picking a few of them. And also keep in mind, I have left a few off for historical purposes. Now, there are some caves, I know for a fact of two of them that have pictographs in them. And one of them is not the Spanish cave. In due time, those will come out, but I figured those need to be reported through the proper channels first, and figure if those are given out, people will probably go spray paint and stuff. So that's the last thing we want to happen. So Lake Altus area, Quartz Mountain. The big cave is a really cool one. You just park by the lodge and then head west towards the amphitheater, and you'll see a sign and a few maps and stuff like that. You got about maybe 2-minute walk until you actually get to the cave, and it's pretty cool. It's huge. Of course, it has graffiti and spray paint in it. The next area that we're going to focus on is Devil's Canyon. Now, I'm not going to go real in depth here. For one, I've actually got a video I'm putting together. It's going to talk about this in depth. At the same time, Devil's Canyon, especially where the caves are at, is owned by the state. It is considered a Quartz Mountain State Park, but all the way around it, it is private property, and they do not like people on their property. They don't like trespassers. Anybody that has heard about Devil's Canyon is well aware of the stories from landowners and stuff, rightfully so. They can be a little aggressive, and they're tired of people coming out and digging holes on their property and bringing metal detectors out and stuff like that. So there are a couple drone shots in. There are a couple of caves out here. Some of them have been sealed up with dynamite, but like I said, we'll go more in depth on this one later. All right, we're going to shift over to the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. I'm going to focus on Charon's Garden. Now, personally, this is probably my favorite area. There's just so many huge boulders. There's lots of crevices to climb in and squeeze between, lots of awesome stem climbs. I could spend hours and hours talking about all the different little caves and stuff, but we're going to focus on just a few that are out there. So to get to these first couple, just utilize one of the pullouts that's by Sunset Peak, and then you're going to head along the perimeter. The natural Spanish cave, which was found in Steve Wilson's book. We're not the only ones to visit this. There's been plenty of other visitors out there. But as you can see here in the map, it's marked Spanish Cave Natural. So this one is natural. It's way up high. It's not a mine. Nathan and I went and checked this out a few months ago. It's pretty cool. You have quite the hike to get to it, though, so keep in mind you want to do this when it's cooler. When it's warmer, you could encounter snakes, especially out here on this side where there's not a lot of people. You have a much higher chance of seeing pretty good sized western diamondback rattlesnakes and other things that can be harmful. You take a hit way out here, you're going to be in trouble for sure. Another cave close by to the natural Spanish cave is one we call the Miner's Cave. It's just a real small indention. You can tell it was a small mine that they probably didn't finish, or they dug shallow and couldn't find anything. But it's just pretty cool to see. And there's another arch that's out here by this as well. For the next set of caves that we're going to focus on in Chern's Garden, you'll want to park at the pullout at the India Homa Gate. Now, this Styx water cave is pretty cool if you see it after a big rain. You kind of work your way into a crevice and there's just water coming all around. It's really cool. You will get your feet wet in the process. Of course, if you're out there after a big rain, you're probably going to get wet anyway, but keep in mind, there's no swimming in the refuge. This little cave is called the Granite Cave. It's close to Granite Mountain, so I called it that. This is also one where if it's raining, which in this case at this time it wasn't, you'll see water actually come through this, and it's big enough to climb back into. Pretty cool little cave. All right, for the next cave, this cave is probably one of the most famous that's out there. This is the Spanish Cave, also known as the Indian Mummy Cave, and I've got a separate video about that, so I won't go too in depth here in this video just for time reasons, because this will already be a longer video. But check the video out, that one right there. It's a cool video. For this one, you'll want to park at Treasure Lake, you know, north of the Job Corps, that area, and then traverse down. And there's many ways to get to these. I'm just trying to show you the easiest way, in my opinion, to get to them. And then also from this parking lot, you can get to Bear Cave. Bear Cave's pretty cool. You know, you just hike past Post Oak Falls, keep going. You know, use the coordinates because it can be tricky to find. It is actually shrouded in trees. And this is one where they had started to dig a mine on top. Looks like they wanted to connect them. So it's pretty cool. All right, for the next set of caves, you'll want to park at Sunset Trailhead on the north side of Elk Mountain. These are pretty cool. The CLAM is huge. Not really a cave per se, but in a sense it is. It's a giant boulder that looks like it fell off of what's Lost Dome, and it covers this area. So not really a true cave. But then again, most of them out here are mines and not really true caves anyway. Okay, a couple more caves that you can reach from this same parking area at Sunset. Up on Elk Mountain, we have WAPITI Mine, WAPITI Cave. This one's pretty neat. You need to go to the summit of Elk Mountain and go just a little bit past it. There's a lot of trails that lead to it, and you'll need to scramble down. It's a pretty cool one. My kids enjoy that one. And probably the most infamous hike or climb here in the Wichita Mountains would be the rock rooms. Now, these are confused all the time with the boulder rooms and then other rock rooms that are found all over. Kind of like the Spanish Cave, I'm not going to go into detail on this one because it's elaborate. You need headlamps and flashlights. You can even bring rope if you want to be safe. It's a risky climb. This is where Dr. Mitchell fell and passed away in the early 90s. So I do have several different videos about the rock rooms. Probably the most recent one I did is the best. It's pretty long, but it shows you a lot of video along the way. It shows you maps and stuff. Tell you what, let me see if I can find it real quick. There it is right there. Okay, so this one right there, check that one out. All right, now on the east side of Chern's Garden, there's still a few more little caves to check out. Wind Cave is a cool one. This one's often called Bat Cave. Now, just a quick note, the rock rooms, if you look at that same map, yep, this one right here, it says Bat Cave. Now, I believe this is the rock rooms. So now Bat Cave is actually a cave that's in the Slick Hills, that's on private property. But this right here is called the Wind Cave, but a lot of people call it the Bat Cave because it's on Bat Cave Mountain. Confusing. I didn't name it. I don't know. I'm just going by what everybody else tells me essentially over the years. So anyway, this one can be a little bit more complicated. You have to climb up this dead tree to get into the cave. So it can be a little bit challenging if you're scared of heights and exposure a little bit. Now on the other side of that, if you park at the pullout next to Heart Rock, you can check out the Outlaw Cave. And this is a small one. It's where we shot some of our Iron Cave video at. It's a pretty neat little cave. It's, you know, not real deep. You can actually go all the way through it and go to the back side. And my kids enjoy that one. It's pretty cool too. Another really cool cave to see near the Heart Rock pullout is known as Nature's Dwell. Now this doesn't look like much from the road. It just looks like an indention. But as you get close to it, you can see that you can actually climb through and go at the back side. And you can climb up and go up above on Batcave Mountain. So this is a pretty cool one as well. All right, so moving more towards the central part of the refuge. Quanah Mountain is mostly on Fort Sill, so you need to have access to Fort Sill to get to this one. It's not real deep, but it's just neat. You know, it's big enough to kind of climb in and turn around in. I call this one QUAHADI Cave because of its proximity to where Quanah Parker's house was at on that range. So, like I said, you need access to Fort Sill to get to this one. Pennington Mine is one that people ask about quite a bit. It's a real deep mine that's located on Cache Creek. You can park over at the cache gate, or, you know, I recommend you park at the Boulder picnic area and go through the Narrows. Either way, you're going to put in some miles to get to this, but it's pretty cool to see. Now, it is blocked off, so you can't go into the actual mine, but you can just kind of go to the beginning and see it. It's pretty cool. All right, so still in the central part of the refuge around Lake Quanah Parker. There's a lot of caves. There's a lot of mining activity here back in the day. Probably the most infamous cave out here is known as Cat Cave. Now, I'm not sure where that name came from, but that's pretty much what everybody knows it by this day and age. My dad took me out there, I was probably 8 or 9. He called it the keyhole, so that's what he had known it as. This one does have some exposure, and when it's wet, don't even attempt it because it's just like a big slide. The views up there are amazing, but it's not for the faint of heart. So if you have an issue with heights or exposure, you're going to want to sit this one out. There's also bolts at the top people climb in. I've never seen anybody climb into them personally, but I've seen pictures and video of people that have actually climbed in. Now, along Quanah Creek, there's several. This one is known as Kitty Cave. If you take picture from inside Kitty Cave and inside Cat Cave, the background looks similar, so a lot of times they're confused. Kitty Cave is steep to climb up, but it's not as bad as Cat Cave by any means, and it's a lot closer. You park at the Quanah Parker Dam, just walk straight across. Behind Kitty Cave, a little higher up towards the summit of Parker Mountain, are the fire caves, and they're real shallow. They face the north. Once again, like I said, there was a lot of mining activity on this side of Mount Parker and Quanah Creek back in the day, and that's evident. Further down Quanah Creek, there's a little cave I found called BRIAR Cave. It's called BRIAR Cave because, well, there's a lot of briar. It's a pretty good size. You can get into it and, you know, climb back out really. Not a whole lot to it. Most of these caves are not real elaborate. Osage Lake has a little cave on it. You can look at it, but you can't get into it, I guess, unless the water is down really low, which has happened in past years. So I did kayak this. I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're not supposed to. I did get in trouble for that. Honestly, I didn't know at the time that I couldn't kayak it. There were no signs up at that time. I had to carry the kayak about half a mile to get to the lake. I don't know. So you cannot kayak Osage Lake. So this is a cave you'll have to look at from far away, unless it's a drought year and you can walk into it. And a little bit further down, I call these caves Fire Cave West. They look a lot like the fire caves that you see on the north side of Parker Mountain. It's easier to come from the Osage Lake parking area as well to get to these. Now keep in mind, a lot of these you probably don't want to hike out to unless it's fall, winter, or spring where it's not too hot. At the same time, you need to be very wary of some of the critters that are out there. Everybody that's hiked a lot in the Wichita Mountains knows it's loaded with venomous snakes. You got copperheads, there are cottonmouths along Cache Creek in some places. There's been timber rattlesnakes seen, Massasaugas, prairie rattlesnakes have even been seen, but the #1 snake that's out there is the western diamondback rattlesnake. These are seen, you know, probably more than any other snake out there. So you need to be very careful. If it's warm, wear your snake gear, your snake protection, and just watch where you put your hands and your feet. The east side of the refuge really doesn't have a whole lot. Now there are some on Ketone Point and Mount Scott. The only one I'm going to cover on the east side today is the one that's actually found in the canyon across from Ketone Point in that parking lot. This is a pretty cool little cave. As you can see, my kids can fit in it. After a good rain, there's a little waterfall coming by. It's just really neat to see. So that's really all that's worth touching on that side of the refuge. Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover today. Now I will be putting out a second video soon that's going to cover more of the mythical historical caves. So legends and stuff like that. It'll be more of a storytelling type. I wanted to put this one out there to help you actually get to these caves. So please leave no trace. Take all the trash out that you bring in and leave the spray paint at home, okay? Be careful. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Have a good one.